Hi, my name is Wilhelm Haaker, and I'm the Director of Solution Engineering here at Parasoft, focused on our functional solutions. Thanks for joining me today. API security testing can be a challenging topic because it intersects several important knowledge domains, like application knowledge, which includes technical and system architecture details necessary to be able to interact with its APIs. API testing skills, which proper tooling makes easier, but still requires some specialized skills to be proficient. And then penetration testing skills, which are rare to find outside of an AppSec team where specialized tooling also exists. And so the challenge is that QA teams generally have knowledge on the first two domains, but not pen testing. And security teams know pen testing and maybe some API testing, but not always enough domain knowledge of the application under test. So, empowering QA teams that lack pen testing knowledge to reuse their existing API tests can end up as a big win to automating API security testing early in the software release process. And from an API perspective, you've got the obvious attack vector with APIs that the application under test exposes to its external consumers. These APIs are generally well documented and functionally well tested. The QA team will already be testing these endpoints and is going to be well positioned to reuse those API tests for pen testing. But a less obvious and more challenging attack vector is with the experience or front end APIs found in modern web applications. These APIs can be undocumented and perceived to be for internal use only, which makes it more difficult to model their interactions for testing, and they're often only tested indirectly with end to end UI tests. And so for today's demo, we'll look at this more challenging scenario to see how Parasoft SOAtest makes it fast and easy to create API penetration tests for an end-to-end flow backed by experience APIs. So at this point, we're ready to start penetration testing. And whether we have API tests created from service definition or more complex scenario tests against experience APIs, the process for configuring penetration testing is the same. And what's especially important is that I don't have to be a security expert to do it. So here I'm going to focus in on the post request for creating an order, and I'm going to add a penetration testing tool. Now I could add this to other endpoints in my scenario if I like, but for now we're just going to focus on this one, and that's it. I'm done. I'm ready to run this as a penetration test now. And you'll see as it's running, it's taking longer to complete. And that's because SOAtest is performing a plethora of attacks against the endpoint we've configured for penetration testing. And what makes this effective is that we're performing the penetration test in the right context of a user scenario. So the conditions necessary for that endpoint to be called are present, and we've overcome a big challenge that security teams would have with performing this level of testing on an application where they're not as familiar with it as a tester would be. So leveraging SOAtest to reuse the existing API tests from QA makes it a low effort task of adding pen testing to your pipelines for early detection. If we come look at the traffic here, you'll see that there is a whole variety of scenarios that were run, various overflow scenarios, cross-site scripting, injection attacks. So quite a bit that was run here. And if we look down at the findings, we can see there were 5 findings. And if I drill down into buffer overflow, we've got a whole lot of detail here that you can pass over to security team or developer for remediation, things like solution, references, Also references to various OWASP or ZAP IDs. So enough information here for someone to take action. And in fact, from the tester's perspective, I can look in and see the specific request and response tied to this finding. So for a buffer overflow, you can see a huge field here in the request. You can see a 500 response from the service. So definitely something to investigate. And from a collaboration perspective, when these tests are executed as part of a CI/CD pipeline, you also get reporting that has all the same information, including traffic with request response. So this can be passed over to your developer or security professional counterparts, providing actionable information on API security weaknesses early in the software development process. And again, we're able to do it as a QA team without that security expertise, but contributing to finding these issues early in the cycle where there's plenty of time for development to take action and remediate the issues that are found.